All right, we are back once again here, Nick, Mike, and David. We're going to talk about the cash/coin shortage this week because that seems to be a hot topic in the land of COVID, and we kind of wanted to get out in front of some of the myths that are out there and kind of tell you where those things land. I'm very boring today. I'm just drinking Miller Lite.
I'm drinking Lagunitas Hop Stoopid. It's a great IPA, 8%. I really enjoy the full flavor. A couple episodes we were talking about Chicago, so it kind of made me want a good Chicago beer. So,
Mike, water?
I'm drinking my leftover Virtue ciders from a couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
There you go.
So we're in a cash shortage, and things have gone kind of crazy here lately. So if you haven't noticed, when you go shopping, places say, you either have to pay with a credit card or have exact change, and people are flipping out and everybody's going nuts. And Dave Ramsey thinks we're moving to a cashless society and no kids will get paid for doing chores, around the neighborhood and crap like that. So we thought we'd kind of dispel some of those rumors and talk about some of the, conspiracy theories that are out there. And we're just going to kind of run from there. So Nick and I and Mike, we were just talking about a little bit of research that we were doing. And, they talk about it being a coin shortage, but, that's kind of a misnomer. There's really not a shortage. It's more the fact that there's a disruption. So Nick was discussing before Mike hopped on that, when we hit COVID, a lot of the minting facilities, they were shut down. So we weren't making money at the time, right, Nick?
Yeah. So from my understanding, right, because, non-essential people lost their job. Well, it wasn't essential for life to have coins kind of getting printed. So the job for a little while. Or the mass production of printing fake bills. So, but no, it's a thing, So now I guess they kept running small amounts, but when you think of a production line, you never really walk into a place with just one line, right? So if they had 10 presses kind of going making coins, now they're down to 2 of those. Well, that doesn't fill what we normally had with our 10 running. So, so that was kind of the understanding was, deemed non-essential, no work for it. So, the other thing that I had found, was, when you're looking into it, there's people out there who, right, on a daily routine, you wake up, you have, your $10, let's call it, in your pocket. You go to Starbucks and you pay $6.50 or whatever it is. So, right, you get your $3.50 back in change. Well, normally you would go to the next spot, right? I don't care if it was work. I don't care if it's anything else. Like, you'd go somewhere else. And let's say you get to work and you put your $1.50 in to get your candy bar. Well, there goes your 50 cents and you used it. That person would, take it out of the machine and run it to the next thing. Well, what they're finding is basically these people are still going to get their coffee. So they're getting their $3.50 and then they're putting it in their pocket. And then they're going nowhere else. They're going back home, right? So if you're like me, I don't have a coin shortage. I was kind of like laughing because I'm like looking at my rolls of coin, So if you're me though, you take that money out, you just throw it on, your nightstand, or you throw it wherever, and you start the next day. You go to the ATM, you pull your 10 or 20 bucks out, so these coins are kind of just sitting at home, right? They're not circulating throughout the people here. They're people's pockets are staying at home, or a piggy bank, things like that. I can't blame it on everybody that's been collecting. They account for uncirculated money every year, right? They account for people that are saving for those rainy day type things. So really the big interruption is all the people that normally go out and spend all their money. My wife and I, we went out the other day and I threw my quarters into the parking meter, right? It was $3 for 10 minutes, but You know, say I am not feeling the coin shortage unless I go to a place that says plastic only. So,
well, see, and that's a great point, because you're seeing in a lot of these places, you know, business not going on as usual. So you think of the places you typically would see cash changing hands, restaurants. Well, restaurants aren't full like they used to be. So you're not giving your waiters and waitresses, you know, $5, $6, $7 tip, or you know, whatever it is. You're not exchanging cash like that. You know, for somebody like me who uses credit for most things, you know, I don't see any real disruption. I don't use a lot of cash. I don't like to have cash laying around. If it's not in a bank earning me interest, it's not doing me any good. So, you know, that's one of the things where you look at and you're like, okay, well, if these things that typically use cash aren't as busy as they used to be, you have no way really to circulate it around.
yeah.
And that's really, you know, what we're hitting on right now is the circulation's down, because we're not spending money in the ways that we used to. You know, we're not going to the bar and hanging out for 3 hours with our friends and buying drinks and, you know, paying with cash when we leave.
Yep. Say, you know, we were talking, bring up a good point, especially with waiters and waitresses, right? I mean, my wife was a waitress back when, you know, when we got married, and right, it was we always joke, right? We'd always call them stripper ones, because she'd come home with, you know, $80 worth of ones, and you know, so then you go to the it's easier, instead of going to the bank and depositing it, you're like, well, I'm already at the grocery store, you know, here's $80, you know, $80. So then this store doesn't have to go to the bank to get that $80 back in that drawer, right? So I mean, every till starts with something different, but you know, if they're starting with, you know, $50 in ones, well, you know, I mean, these people were bringing in all these ones. Now these ones aren't getting circulated. I mean, you know, it just every so the bigger the bills that are out there, right? I mean, that's more change that has to get broken down. So, and again, as I said, I think most people, right? It's so much easier. It's so much easier to take the money out of your pocket. You know, it's say even right now, like, you know, I have a few dollar bills, and it's like, okay, this isn't enough to buy exactly what I'm going to need for tomorrow. So I just throw it on my nightstand, and then I'm going to go to the ATM again, and I'm just going to grab that 20 or that 10, right? Like, people have these daily budgets that, you know, oh, I get $20 to spend, anything less, or, you know, anything left over, I throw it over here, and I start fresh with a brand new 20. Like, you know, people aren't. A lot of people don't want to spend that time just counting this stuff out like exact things. So, I mean, granted, that's why credit cards and debit cards are there, but there's still, you know, I mean, there's definitely the Dave Ramsey people who are, you know, cash people. Like, when we say cash, we don't mean debit card. We don't mean, you know, I mean, we're talking the old way that we remember putting money in an envelope, right? You go to the bank, get your exact dollar bills, and break it down into envelopes. So, you know, you're not getting as much of that interaction through society today, you know, and it'll speed things up. I mean, so we all I'm going to give a big shout out, because they're gonna sponsor us sometime soon. Yesterdog, right? So Yesterdog is this hot dog place here in Grand Rapids area. Fantastic hot dogs. Can't wait for the sponsorship to come in. But, you know, something really fun about them. Something really fun, right? So they're a cash only company, right? They're not paying transaction fees for you know, debit credit card getting used. And now, David, right? You and I love to frequent there. So when your hot dog costs you $2.50, they give you 2 quarters back from your $3. What do you do with that 50 cents?
Oh yeah, you go spend that money.
Right. Well, you know, you throw it against the wall at their tube and try to get it into the tube. You know, everybody, as much as I love saving money, like, part of me is like, this change got to go in my pocket. Now that looks fun. I'm gonna try to hit that. You know, so there's a tube on the wall, and it drops in there. So, right. I mean, when you take cash out of places like that, I mean, granted, you're gonna stop some money laundering, right? But which, you know, but there's, you know, there's there's no reason to stop printing bills and things like that. And you know, I can see your smaller towns just never are, right? I mean, I still belong to a hardware store in my town where they let me have a 1 month ongoing tally, right? And then I can go in and just pay with my card at the end because they don't want me to come in every day paying 5, 10, 12, 15 bucks, charge. They're like, you know what? We'll put you on an account. Just come in, you know, come in on the 15th, you know, and just pay off whatever you can. So, or you can pay off the whole debt. So swipe it away. So you build that credit with them.
Well, when we look at some of these, you know, cash dependent businesses, so, you know, obviously restaurants are a big one because waiters and waitresses, you know, live on their tips, and they prefer cash because they don't always have to claim all of that to Uncle Sam. You know, you brought
they
up.
have to, they just don't.
Correct. They have to, but, you know, sometimes money gets misplaced. You bring up, you know, your wife came home and you guys referred to it as stripper once. Well, you know, that's another place that you get a lot of cash. Yep. And they're not open, so you're not getting any of that cash. I know Nick's a big bowler, and I got to assume, now I don't know because I'm not a bowler, I don't bowl on leagues, but I know they do a lot of betting on leagues, and I would have to imagine most of that's done with cash.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so we would never bet on those things because that's illegal gambling. But right, I mean, your side between friends things. I'm not gonna PayPal you, or I'm not gonna Venmo you. I'm not gonna Cash App. I want my money right here, right now. I just whipped you, right? So, right, you play cards. You play cards for candy, and that candy just happens to look like, you know, a $5 bill. You know, it's yeah. You know, those fun things are done that way. I don't see a casino allowing cashless to happen, right?
No.
I think they would enjoy it, right? From the aspect of, like, we have kids attractions around here where you go, you put $20 on it, and then you get a card, and you could spend up to $20, you know. So, but I mean, even at like, if I play a poker game at the casino, right? Like my chips turn into, or my cash turns into chips, comes right back into cash. I want to see when they roll out for these championship things, right? They roll a big mound, a pyramid of $1 million, and they dump it out on the table. Like, cash will always have that make your eyes bright, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of big chips in my life, right? I'm not lying. I seen over, like, I think it was $1.2 million in chips sitting on a table, actual, like, a person to it. And yeah, okay, it's a crap ton of chips and this and that, but when you look at it, a red chip in your mind looks exactly the same as a purple chip, right? I mean, so the 5 and 500 or whatever, like, you're gonna spend it either way. So it's the idea with cash. You're never. It's a great marketing scheme. Everything's behind it. I mean, you're never gonna get away from it.
Yeah, so when we look at some of these things, like I mentioned to Nick earlier, there's a bank in Wisconsin that will pay you a bonus to bring in your change. So if you bring in $100 worth of change, they'll give you a $5 bonus. You can earn up to $500 doing that. And, you know, that's a bank thinking outside the box, saying, hey, we need to get change back out here. We need to get it, you know, working again. So it's a nominal price for them to pay the $5, mm-hmm. but it gets it circulating again, which is what the economy really needs. It doesn't do the economy any good for the money to be sitting on Nick's dresser next to his bed. They need that out, you know, people spending that and going in and out of people's pockets.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
You know, the printing. So back when you guys were young, right? I mean, there was what, the quarter arcade, or what did you guys call them, the nickel arcade? Yep. I'm not sure if you're that old.
They were a quarter, but yep.
Yeah. You know, but those things aren't around, right? So you're not pumping in these, you know, these quarters into, and if that, you know, even if that's the case, so like I know here, right, going to carnivals, right, or fairs or festivals, whatever you guys call these things, right? So I go and I bring my daughter and I throw a dart at a balloon, right? I have to pay cash to play that game. None of those places accept card, right? So now these things aren't happening all around the country, right? So one of our favorite games is, you throw a ball into a basketball hoop. It's got a big colored wheel, and you have your quarter or your dime out there, right? And you try to win a stuffed animal or a candy bar, and so, right? That's a great generation of coins and things like that. And so when you think about all these things that we're using cash, I mean, even again, all the breweries that we have, everything, they're not allowing you to play the video games. They're not allowing you to play all these. If you have to touch the machine, they're not allowing it to happen. So, right, they're not allowing you to accept your quarters. Granted, we don't have payphones anymore, right? But I mean, there's still, when you think of all the things that you used to take and put your coin into, you really can't do it right now because of COVID. So, there is such a big shortage on this money, these quarters and dimes going around out there. So,
well, even the things that people like to do. So, summer in Michigan's big for garage sailing or going to flea markets. One of the things, my daughter and I love to do are go to conventions. We love going to conventions, and we know damn well, if you're paying with your card at a convention, you're paying state sales tax. But if you're paying cash at the convention, you're not paying sales tax. They're not going to collect it from you. They don't care because there's no record of it. So you can get this for $20, or if you use your card, you can get it for $23. What do you want to do?
Well, you're saying, as a business owner, right? I mean, I claim everything that comes in, but I can tell you that I know that there are people, right? I get a discount on certain things that I get installed or certain things that I buy, right? Now, whether that company, right, as you said, whether that company claims that they sold that item or not, that's that's their thing. So
right.
You can't deny a transaction that shows up on paper. So
right. Yeah, and those things are totally up to, the honesty of the merchant that's doing the business. Because I'm not going to run around and say, first off, I'm not going to remember where I spent the money. And I'm not going to run around and say, yeah, I got a $3 discount because I didn't use my card here. So they're probably not reporting that to you in taxes, and you should go find them. I'm not paying attention to that. I just know I got it for $20, so I'm happy.
Yep. Well, it's easier for them, right? It's easier for them not to, even if they do pay their taxes on it. Like, it's easy not to carry all that change around, right? I mean, when you think, if for some reason, let's say, you're at the convention and there's 50 people trying to get in line, well, me trying to make that $17 and change, or $7 and change off that 23, you know what? I'll just get to the next person. I'll just pay it later type of a thing. So it's when we're talking, where is it? Honestly, like, I think everybody right now, if you check your dryers, right? I mean, this money's staying in your pockets, right? You'll find it with the other sock that you've been missing. The coins are probably hanging out with the socks. So, no, it's. I know we want to get into some conspiracies, David. I know you hit on it just a little bit. So why don't you tell us what one of the conspiracies is?
So I find one valid conspiracy out there. If there is a conspiracy that holds any water to me, this is the only one I find plausible. So we obviously are at a point where banks are not making as many loans as they used to. They're not bringing in money like they used to. So if there is a shortage and banks are perpetuating that shortage, the only way that works is if they're pushing you to use cards, whether it's a debit card or a credit card, because A, they're getting money on the front end through the processing fees. And they're hoping to get money on the back end through, you're not paying your entire bill and now you're paying interest on those. So the only version of this that I see that makes any sense is the banks promoting, a shortage for their gain later on, which I would never put past a bank to do that because they're out for their bottom dollar. I mean, just like we all are. But there are some very far-fetched conspiracy theories, which, I guess they're fun to talk about. So, a lot of people think we're in the New World Order where they're going to get rid of cash altogether and we're going to be subjected to only some kind of fake currency and credit, and kids won't be able to pick up odd jobs anymore. And, everybody's going to have two heads or some crazy crap like that. I can't buy into any of that stuff.
Well, that's I think if I'm going to come up with a conspiracy, it's going to be right now. It's that Bitcoin is trying to take over, and they're proving that cash is it. So, all you Bitcoin people, this is your new conspiracy. I've created it right here, live on air. So, no, right? I heard. I was talking to a coin collector friend of mine, and I was like, because I wanted to know. We did some research on this. I was like, hey, what's up with this coin thing? And I was like, is it gonna make these things valuable? And they laugh at me and they're like, no, you can't have just a low run production make things valuable. It has to be like a super low run specific for it. So I couldn't call that a conspiracy on these people trying to make money off of it. I know back, gosh, when I was a kid, they came back out with those gold coins, the dollar coins, right? And everybody thought those were going to be collectible for a minute. You're like, not, no. And they didn't take off. They didn't replace the dollar bill. So, I heard that they're trying to do it to get rid of the penny because it costs more money. It costs more money to print a penny than its actual value. So the metal and the time of people, it's what, like 1 point something cents compared to the 1 cent it's actually worth. So I heard that is a conspiracy trying to get rid of the penny, and the way that they thought about it was, I guess, get rid of all the change, and then just have round numbers for everything. But don't buy that, right? I mean, again, when we go down to, you're going to instantly make all this change type thing a value, right? You can't make it valueless because that now the people that are hoarding it and generations and generations of people are just, this is a huge thing from back in the day, and it's not really how it works. So,
well, I think one of my favorite conspiracies is the people are trading change for toilet paper.
Yes, they are.
Which, to me, is just buying toilet paper, but, okay. Again, this country went on a toilet paper shortage because when COVID hit, it seems everybody had to go to the bathroom at the same time, so they had to buy a ton of toilet paper. Still don't understand this one, but, that's what everybody ran out and bought.
Yeah, and that is, I wish I could tell you, right, why that was a thing and why people were, we had quite a bit, and then all of a sudden, we start getting lower. So my wife and I made it a giant joke of like, all right, make sure you look every time you go out, right? But
Yeah.
it's just a weird thing that you don't find it's ever, I don't know. It's weird. You would think all the food would be gone first, right? Like things, no offense, but like I'll go buy a bidet off of Amazon before I, eat a bug, right?
Right.
Like I'm not gonna go fend for myself outside. I'd rather hop in the bidet, get that taken care of. So I don't know why the toilet paper thing was a thing.
Well, and I've seen, some questions. My wife had a question on whether it was legal to basically tell people we're not giving you change back if you come to a store and you buy something. So that is absolutely legal. If their sign is posted and it says you need to have exact change, and if you don't, we're not giving you any change, then you're out of luck. And I know with a lot of the places around here, what they're doing is they're saying, Speedway's one of them, if you don't have exact change, we're going to round it up and give it to, I think it's Children's Miracle Network. And we stopped at Speedway the other day. My wife went in to get a drink, and there was a guy screaming at the clerk, basically saying, no, it's $6.12. You can't keep my 88 cents. You just need to take $6 for this. And the lady kept saying, I'm sorry, that's not the way it works here. And that's basically where we've gotten to is, you know, you better have the exact change. If you don't, you better use, you know, a method that is exact change, whether it's a check, if they take checks, or a credit card or a debit card or a gift card, or figure it out.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, I say I want to go, you know, I really think it's literally just because minting slowed down. I mean, everything that was non-essential, you know, slowed. It really did. We've all felt it, right? I mean, dining rooms for like McDonald's weren't open, so you didn't have that extra help up front, but you had the drive-through, right? I mean, so the flow of people, the amount of people spending money just wasn't there. So, and I, you know, I do think the older generation were the people that always carried the cash. I mean, I always carry cash. I always have some type of cash on me, but I've always been considered like a 90-year-old. So, you know, one thing that was also, I want to go back to a conspiracy that was also brought to me was, right, people hoarding this change, it's going to have trade value later, right? So they thought that when you look at like gold and silver pieces, right, there are things out there. Like, so basically my understanding when it was described to me was, well, you know, people are going to need money. And so every cash money, right, not card, plastic, cash money is going to be the biggest thing. So when your quarter is going to be worth, I don't know, $1 or something, like the value to get it, because people were thinking that money was going to dry up so much that they were hoarding every piece of change, right? Pennies are going to be worth dimes, that type of a thing. So, again, with having, you know, and the thing that got me was, you know, the thing that I figured was a horrible conspiracy was, right, again, we have plastic. Everybody can accept it, whether they choose to or not, type of a thing. You know, I'd hate to see going to buy a beater car and trying to cash app somebody $300 or whatever it is, right? You know, I do transactions all the time with Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and I go leave the $5 or the $10 under the doormat or whatever, you know, for my porch pickup. So, you know, I don't think it's a shortage that's going to last for a long time. You know, once kind of routine hits, and again, from what I understand, they started picking printing back up. Now it's just a matter of getting people out there to spend the printing. So,
well, a lot of what goes on here is we operate in fear. So if we can create some fear, we can get people to, you know, basically buy into these conspiracy theories instead of actually, you know, looking at things logically and going, all right, yeah, cash isn't moving right now because the economy's been shut down. It's been shut down for a good reason. We don't want everybody getting sick. That's a great reason. So, you know, we're at a point here where there are 3 of us that are doing this right now. Raise your hand if you've been tested for COVID in the last month. So that's just a reality we live in. And if you can make people afraid, they're willing to buy any piece of BS that you'll lay out to them because they just want some kind of understanding or some kind of it's somebody else's fault, instead of looking at things logically and saying, okay, we've been in this since March. We're probably going to be in this until March. We need a vaccine. Money's not going to work like it used to. Let's do smart things with our money right now. So, you know, my main goal since COVID hit, which, you know, if you've watched any of these episodes, you should know we're sitting here trying to impart knowledge. And I've talked several times. I'm trying to get my roof paid off because I took a loan from my daughter for the roof. Roof will be paid off by the end of the year. Once that happens, you know, I talked about dumping more money into retirement accounts for my wife and I because I'd like to retire someday. So every move I'm making at this point is towards some common goal of, at some point I'd like to retire, at some point I'd like to take a vacation. I know none of these things are going to happen this year, so let's just get as much paid off as I can, not make any crazy decisions because there's no reason to be crazy right now, and try to maximize some of my investments. And I think that's a big reason why we sit here every week talking about, do this with your money, don't do that with your money, try, think about this, think about that. I don't ever think a quarter is going to be worth more than 25 cents. It just don't. If you have a really rare quarter, maybe, but what does that have to be? Like a 19 or 1889 Indian head quarter or some crap? I don't know what money was back then, but if you have one of those and you can cash it in for 10 grand, go for it.
Right. But it's it's not like you're out there. It's not like you're out there with every piece of change hunting it, which surprises me about you because how much you like to make that extra penny. But I used to work with a guy who would sort through the change every night on the till, and it would bug me, right? But he'd be looking for wheat pennies, and he'd be looking for all these things, and I'm just like, no. Now I've learned a little bit, and so I give my daughter $50 as a allowance type of a thing, and I pay her, because they're bigger coins, and so I pay her in those. Now I search for those because I guess some are silver, so I'll make sure I check anything that's like 1974 and earlier. But in the end, I don't really care. She can have the what is it worth, $6-8? I don't care. I mean. Yeah. Say I don't I'll just look at it and go, is one really shiny? Nope. Okay, they're all yours. I think people are, like always, right? They're overreacting to a lot of things, and I think media creates drama kind of a guy too. So right, this thing could be that the Starbucks inside the NBC studio didn't have change because somebody didn't go to the bank one day, or they they quit and they're like, oh, there's a change shortage. I believe those things happen. And so they run with this, and then the person at the Starbucks there got super excited that they made TV, so they're like, well, I'm not going to get change again. So.
Well, and it's one of those things you look at, especially when it comes to anything that's shared through media channels. You have to check your sources because, especially in the day and age we're in, so many things are shared out there that you sit there and you read it and you're like, well, that's just BS. How can anybody believe it? But you can find 5 or 6 people that are going to believe that, and they're going to take that to the bank, and it's like, okay, seriously, you're the same person that in 1984 would have read the Inquirer and known that we had 3 aliens sitting in Washington, D.C., in Congress or some BS because the Inquirer posted it. It's just not fathomable to me that people still buy into some of these weird conspiracy theories that are out there. Yeah, I get it. It's fun to think about. But, in my lifetime, I don't think that we blew up the World Trade Center. I'm just not buying that story. And I know that's a big conspiracy that's out there. I do honestly believe Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. I think somebody else shot Kennedy because I don't think he could make that shot from there. Sometimes I believe it. Most of the time, I think it's just BS. It's just fun stuff for people to talk about.
I think that's what it is, right? I mean, it's getting people to have like minds agree. So, I mean, it's not conspiracy stuff, right? But you go to Republicans, Republicans, they're friends with Republicans because, that's that they think the same. Democrats, they're friends with Democrats because they think the same. I mean, yes, you can have friends on both sides, right? But big chances are your friend is kind of the same thing you are, right? I mean, you like to agree, so we're not saying that you're wrong if you think that this coin change or coin shortage thing is a conspiracy, right? We're just saying we we don't believe it. Here's our opinion of why. So, and if honestly, I always like conspiracy theories because like how sometimes they get really deep. Like you said, there's aliens and stuff like that. Like, dude, I'm totally hoping that someday I get proven wrong. Like, and I just look at myself and go, shit, right? Like, I should have said, Nick, in order to survive, you need to have 14 quarters and 3 nickels. And I'm like, I only got 13. Like, I'm hoping I'm wrong at that point in my life, So.
Well, I'll say, to add to, I mean, and I agree with both of you, I think part of the reason why there's cash and coin shortages is the people aren't out there spending it. Because I'm a treasurer for my kid's PTO. I've got this bucket here that's probably almost $50 worth of coins that because the bank's not open for me to turn it in at, I can't turn this in. I've got some cash in there too, probably about $20 worth. It's just sitting on my desk waiting for me to be able to go in because I'm sorry, I'm lazy. I'm not going to roll the coins so I can go turn them in at, a bank or whatever. I'm going to wait till these banks that have the coin counters are open again.
Yeah.
Well, and the PTO is a great example. So obviously schools were shut down in March.
Mm-hmm.
I know that our business had donated a gift card to your PTO, right?
Which we never gave away.
Which you never gave away because the carnival didn't happen. Well, we donated some to our softball team too. Dawn said, hey, Chris helped us out with bats. We're going to donate a couple gift cards to the softball team. Now, our big fundraiser every year, now Nick coached with me, so he knows where I used to coach, it was hard to get money. And that usually fell to me. Now, where I coach now, it's easy to get money. We have one fundraiser a year. It's a bowling fundraiser. We bring all the parents in and all of their friends. They drink a lot. They spend a lot of money on 50-50. They spend a lot of money on raffles. Everybody wants to buy the last ticket, so they literally sit there next to the raffle thing, throwing money in the thing at the end. Everything's cash only. We raise probably in the neighborhood of $3,000-4,000 in that one fundraiser that would have taken place a week after the season was basically shut down. So we had no fundraisers, so there was no money raised. And you do that. What?
Our two big fundraisers are a walkathon, which even though you can do online, still probably, and we usually make about 10,000 with that. Probably 4,000 of that still is cash and check donation. People who don't do this, I'm going to charge, a credit card online thing. And, the other one is our carnival. And, this year we had tried to get the square readers to work so we could take credit cards. But we still expected 75% of our cash to come, or money to come from coming in with cash.
I know.
Well, I remember playing sports in high school. We did, for football, we did sub sales, we did lift-a-thons. It was always cash.
What?
Once in a while, a check maybe, but it was almost always cash.
It was, yeah, I would say. That was.
But I mean,
everything is, in the youth area is cash kind of a thing. I mean, that's what you're looking at because, young kids. Even high school, I'm going to call them young kids. Granted they're mature, responsible, but if they're selling something, doing something, grandma, grandpa, aunt, and uncle, whatever, are gonna hand you cash. Like, I mean, and they don't want to hand you a credit card to make you run it to, I know as a kid, right? Like if I had a box of candy bars, I sold 50 of them. I got to sit there and count $51 bills. I mean that's what it was. One other thing, I know it was huge in my school. All the classes, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, right? You would all these kids would carry around milk jugs, right? And it would be the representation of their class. And you wanted to raise the most pennies, I think is what it was. And then all of the silver that got put in there counted as negative, right? So
penny wars.
Yeah, penny wars. I mean, this was a huge thing. So, I remember being that kid who went and bought $50 worth of quarters, right? Dump 10 into each one, type of thing, and then would throw in the extra $10 or the extra $20 into the seniors, right, to make sure they lost. Like, there was nothing better than getting to the final and knowing that they lost. So, right, the school things didn't happen. The transfer of funds didn't happen. We could sit here forever and list how many things that required coins didn't happen this year. I mean, gosh, I even went to the putt-putt place that has a wishing well where you throw a coin in, and God, there was no coins in that thing,
That and the malls and stuff like that, or museums that have the little
the coin racers and
things. Yep, I mean, they all, it's all quite often donation things, but they take those coins that they donate and they turn it into cash,
right.
or they turn it into, an electronic deposit into their budget.
Yep, and that's I say, and the bank rolls it, throws it right back out to all these stores. I mean,
yep.
So there's all these things that just aren't happening right now to create the movement of these coins. So, I think that's one thing to realize is it'll turn back around. It really will.
Well,
you look at the last, let's say, 100 years, and obviously we've had two very significant financial events with the Depression in the 1920s and the Great Recession in 2008 and 9. And the people that survived those things and honestly thrived in those things were the people that looked at things logically and said, okay, this sucks right now, but if I hold on tight, it's going to come back around. And that's where we are here again is, yeah, it sucks a little bit right now, but once we get to a point where we have a vaccine and people can get back, to some semblance of normal, things will be okay again. But again, we all have to do our part. And that's really what we're missing right now is people doing their part.
Yeah, it's I their part being stimulate the economy. I mean, there's people who are like myself. I hoard change. It's just I've done it since I was a kid, right? Like I wanted to fill the biggest tube, but it's how I was raised. I'm finding honestly, I want to do the research. I have social media, Facebook, and I can't create a poll, but like I want to know how many of my friends save change and have it rolled. It kind of came about where I have a brother who uses Coinstar and he'll pay the 10%. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like I'll roll your change for 5% of the cut.
Right.
But he doesn't actually save that much. I mean, honestly, he'll do it for $20 kind of a thing. He just throws it in his car and then it's done. Where, I'll get to a couple $100 and then turn it in. But so I'm finding that people who are savers, natural savers, save their money. I'm finding that they are the people that keep their change and get it rolled, they roll it themselves. Most of us don't even, bring it. I guess to the people that have the big, I have a big Detroit Tigers like pop bottle that you can fill, and you can bring that into the bank and they'll have it rolled for you. It'll take a couple days, but so I'm finding that the natural, financially stable people are the people that are doing those habits of saving all the way through. So one thing I'm kind of hoping from this coin shortage is it's teaching people to like save. I'm hoping that the little longer that it goes, that these people are like, oh crap, I have $20, or something that makes them actually think I should really start saving. I know my bank, they had what I think they called it like pop money or something, where they would take the change and they would roll it over, at the end of each day, like however much the actual not per transaction, but the actual day or something. That way it wasn't adding, because sometimes I think Acorns, right? Like it'll be every transaction, and that could be like $25 a day at times. This was like at the end of the day, so for 31 days, then it would tell you how much extra you had into that account, kind of a thing. So that was really a cool feature. But so I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see something. So hopefully it creating a new thing for some people. So
here's a great story for you. When my mother was first married, she lived in Chicago. They had a neighbor, I think it was a neighbor named Fred. Fred did not like change. So Fred would take his change and throw it in the trash. So my mother and Fred's wife dug the change out of the trash. And when it got up to $20, they took it to the bank and they got a $20 bill. And Fred wanted to know why they weren't giving him his $20. Sorry, we're not giving you your $20. You threw it away. And it's a great lesson of, yeah, it takes time to do these things because, I'm going to pick up the penny when I see it in the parking lot too. It takes time, but it does add up. If I can get an extra $3 a year because I picked up a penny or I scan a receipt on my app, I'm going to do that because, that extra $3 to me is worth something. Will it be worth something to me in 20 years? Maybe not. Maybe I have enough money. I don't give a shit about that $3. I'll leave it for somebody else. But right now, it means something because I want to make sure I'm maximizing everything that I have because, again, I would like to retire someday.
yeah, I say, just real quick because I was interested. Was it 1792? The first coin was produced in the USA,
Okay.
right in Philadelphia. So, I mean, over 300 years. We're not going anywhere with money anytime soon. So, I don't think people need to worry about that. Dave Ramsey, people, we're hoping that you're watching this, and don't fear. You can still do the Dave plan, but hopefully a little, hopefully with what David said, take a drive all the way to Wisconsin and make your $5 on your 100, because part of me is really thinking that's worth a trip. I mean, they have great beer over there, and I'm sitting here going, man, even if I walk out of there with a halfway free trip, like, gas can't be that much to get there. So
gas is cheap right now.
Yeah, say it's I'm gonna buy everybody's change and get my butt over there and trade this in. So anybody watching that wants to send me quarters, let me know.
And I think, you mentioned it too, cash isn't going anywhere. I mean, cash is controlled by the government. The government is going to lose a ton of money, and they're going to lose a ton of jobs if they stop printing cash and stamping coins and everything else that they do. So, it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, so the only thing I can is say it won't even stop. People are worried about drug dealers and how illegal that is, and everybody uses cash. And man, I've seen transactions go down literally using Cash App. So you're not going to stop drug wars. You're not going to stop this. I want everybody to know this is my daughter Emerson. She was actually seen by a friend of ours on YouTube, so she's officially a YouTube star.
Nice.
Yeah, I was not a YouTube star. Granted, I've been on it for hours. No. She's a YouTube star. So, guys, send well wishes and love to her, and we'll let her know how big her head can get. So, Dad's is here. I think she can get there. So.
It's usually the cute kids that are the YouTube stars, not the ugly bad.
And nobody wants to look at our mugs.
Lion roar.
All right, so that's basically what we got for you this week. I'll let Nick go with his normal because I know he loves to.
Yeah, yes, your dog. Appreciate you guys going to be sponsoring us very soon. Lagunitas, I'm letting you guys know this is a fantastic beer. Can't wait for you to send it to us. All the rest of you guys that are watching, like, subscribe, share. Tell your friends that you enjoy watching the big bearded guy and the Cubs fans here. So guys, really, please, if you could subscribe, subscribing is huge for us. Lets you know when our video comes out. Sharing just lets you share our knowledge with the rest of the world, and that's what we want to do. So.
Yeah, as always, if you have things you'd like us to talk about, please shoot us a message. You know, if you have questions, we'd love to answer questions. We hope to do a follow-up here pretty soon with TJ on his house buying experience. That should be progressing along, and Nick and I are very excited about that. And otherwise, we'll figure out what next week we're going to talk about, and we'll see you then.